Hi, I hope you are well. This podcast is a place for people to share personal and professional perspectives, talk openly, and ask questions. From serious to silly to sublime, it's all about communication and connection. Always coming from a place of kindness and curiosity, we talk about shared humanity, discuss ideas, and highlight people creating a better world. We've got to keep learning, keep growing, keep being. I'm Melissa Beek, and this is Beek on Being. Today's episode is Beek on Being Spiritual. Spirituality, finding meaning and connection to something larger than oneself. So many different beliefs and definitions. Spirituality doesn't have to be religious, but it can be. Maybe spirituality is something you personally practice, connecting with nature, meditation, prayer, artistic expression, positivity, acts of kindness. Finding unity and harmony, looking for a connective thread that unites and uplifts us all, a higher meaning in life or connection to the universe. So how do we start a spiritual practice? Where do we begin? What does it mean to be spiritual? Today we have two incredible clergymen, Rabbi Fred Klein, Senior Director Mishnah Miami and Rabbi of Greater Miami Jewish Federation, and Reverend Dr. Theo Johnson, Senior Pastor of Sweet Home Missionary Baptist Church. Welcome. I am so honored to have both of you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Yes.
Would you please both introduce yourselves and tell our listeners a little bit about you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Fred Klein. I serve as the rabbi for the Greater Miami Jewish Federation and direct our spiritual care programs, our chaplaincy programs for the community. And so nice to be here with all of you. I grew up here, actually, in South Florida. Grew up in North Miami Beach, Florida. And in college, I really started exploring my religious faith in a serious way, even though I was very motivated as a kid in my traditional Jewish community in North Miami Beach. I started exploring my own spiritual journey in the context of a lot of different spiritual journeys when I was at Brown University. So I decided to study in the study of religions and comparative religions. And I think for me, one of the most formative experiences was being involved in interfaith dialogue on campus. And actually a person that became my best friend, who became a Congregationalist minister, profoundly influenced my life about how to look at other people and other people's journey. And so I always feel like the first thing that a person needs to ask is a conversation of curiosity. What motivates you in life? What brings you meaning and purpose? And so I've always tried to have that front and center in terms of my own journey.
I like that.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. My name is Theo Johnson, and I am the pastor of Sweet Home Missionary Baptist Church. It's on the south end of town in Cutler Bay, and I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, but been here since 2010. And so what brought me here was the opportunity to become the assistant pastor for the church, but in a few years I became the senior pastor. And so I am excited about this opportunity and excited to explore what spirituality means for each one of us.
Yeah, love that. And what inspired you to become clergyman?
Well, I would say in my tradition, it's more so of a divine inspiration, I would say. I had no desire whatsoever to ever preach or pastor, but ironically, God, who I call God, began to impress upon my heart that was what he was desiring for me to do. And so I went on this journey, went to seminary, and just through that revelation, I began to sense that this was what God was calling me to do. Beautiful. Yeah.
And how did you two become friends?
We debate about it, I think, but I think it was from one interfaith meeting, and we got to know each other to the point where I was invited to Shabbat one night. Remember that?
Oh, I remember that. There was a funny story. So Reverend Johnson gets to my house, and he's very excited, and he says, "Why are your lights on? It says in the Bible that you shouldn't light fires on the Sabbath." So I think he thought we were going to sit in darkness and meditate. I said, "No, I invited you for a Shabbat meal. We're going to celebrate. We're going to partake in, in a meal together."
Yeah.
And that's how you really create friendship around bread and around eating.
Yes.
And I think it was your first challah.
Yeah. It
Challah
was.
bread.
That's
And
the
we had
best.
a few extras, and you guys liked it so much that we
Yes.
gave it to you and your wife. We
You
said,
sure
"Here,
did.
take it home.
And we
Take it home.
ate it.
Make a French toast on
Oh,
Sunday
yeah,
morning."
that's what you
Yes, we ate it. We ate it. One of the things I was very intrigued by is that he asked me to open his refrigerator. And I was like, what? I was like, so explain to me. So you can't turn the light on. You can't open the refrigerator. You can't open the, turn anything on. And so he began to explain to me the significance of Shabbat for him. And I just thought that was interesting. And so that's what I love about Fred. I love about different individuals that I get to meet, because I just believe that we're all interested. We're interesting individuals. We get to talk, and you see how much we have in common with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. So before we start the whole conversation on spirituality, can we sort of define and clarify these terms? Spirituality, faith, and religion. Because I've heard sometimes they're used synonymously or interchangeably, but I think there's a small difference.
Well, for me, I think people think about faith as a belief,
Mm-hmm.
and that is true. But I think faith is also an action, right? The people have to act faithfully. So in life, we do actions, and that inspires how we think about the world. You don't think about love. You love somebody, and through loving them, they become the object of your devotion and your effort. So I always think what it means to be faithful is to take actions of service to the other, and in this case, to God.
Okay.
As a person
that.
of faith. So it says in the Shema, which our Jewish listeners will know, it says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these things I command today should be upon your heart."
Mm-hmm.
How do you love? You don't love in your heart. You love in actions, just like a
doing.
child, just like a spouse, just like a parent. You express acts of devotion, and that actually, the heart is a muscle, right? And we cultivate faith by doing actions in this world that are meaningful.
I agree with that. So from me, coming from a Christian tradition, for me, faith is a personal trust in God, or to have a confidence in God. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So for us, it's more so you're believing in something so much that you're willing to, as Fred said, act it out. Even though you don't see it, you believe, or you may not have all the facts. You live it out to the point where you believe it. And what we believe is that faith is an action as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole part of the makeup.
And I think it's part of a fabric of a life. So, in a life of study, when you're constantly studying scripture, or in Jewish community, also rabbinic text, the Talmud, you begin to actually create a language of faith.
Mm-hmm.
The way I think people of faith speak is very different. The way you look at the world, the way that we understand the world around us. And I think, I think that that's a very important idea, that I grew up in a traditional Jewish community. I'm an Orthodox rabbi, Orthodox Jew. And so even when I was a little kid, every day I would have to say blessings and bless God for the food that I'm about to eat.
Mm-hmm.
That changes, like a simple act like eating,
right?
Which people think so unconsciously about what they're doing. All of a sudden, when I take a piece of food and I make a blessing, thank you, God, for giving me this, that changes even the way you think about the world, that everything has that divine blessing within it. And I think that that's really important in terms of a faithful way of looking at the world as well.
Right. I think about what you just said. I think about every morning when you get up and you say, like, the Modiani, which is the blessing in the morning for getting up, being alive, arising.
Right. Modiani is the thing that is we wake up in the morning and you recognize that you've woken up.
Mm-hmm.
The wonder of actually being alive.
Right.
Because there's no reason why anyone should necessarily be alive.
Right.
So in some ways, it's a symbolic resurrection. Every morning that we wake up from unconsciousness to consciousness is an opportunity to reflect upon that.
Right. And to say a blessing for rising in the morning.
I love it.
I love it. And what are your definitions of religion and spirituality? Or you could just do religion now, and then we'll get to what spirituality means to you after.
Yeah. So I think that for us as Christians, religion just basically is an outward expression of our faith.
Okay.
You know, it may look different for so many different people in terms of how you practice it, but overall, it's just the expression of what you believe,
Right.
and you're adhering to its core principles.
Right.
And so religion for us may look different than the Jewish tradition, but to me, it's all an act of faith.
Act of faith. Yeah, I think that's well said. And what does spirituality mean to both of you?
So for me, working as a chaplain, as opposed to when a person comes into a church or a synagogue where you become the religious authority, when I go into a room of a patient or I go into a room of another human being, I'm going into their sacred space.
Got it.
And so spirituality is an idea of how does one create meaning out of life? How does one create a sense of value that's beyond this moment? And I think most human beings are spiritual seekers.
Mm-hmm.
They want a sense of their lives that's more than this moment, that here you're
Some
here for
meaning.
now and then you're gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But rather that who they are, what their essence is, will live on.
Mm-hmm. Beyond
and
them.
The way people construct that sense of meaning is diverse among different groups and cultures, but ultimately, I think, always looks for something transcendent about this world. And I think that that's actually ingrained in our hearts. I think all of us want to live our lives in light of something larger than ourselves, because if we're just out here atomized individuals, it's very hard to get up and go day by day, especially when there are life's challenges.
Right.
Religion, on the other hand, I think religion is, once you have a religious insight, that's concretized in a community, a discourse. So every religion is going to have its own insight. In fact, very often the founders of religion came out from other religions, and they had a deep insight about what the truth of this world was, right? And in their community, they were seen as heretics. They were seen as revolutionaries, right? Whether it be Abraham smashing idols, or Reverend Johnson could speak about Jesus, but these new spiritual insights were not accepted at the religions of the time, but ultimately it was adapted by a community and concretized in law or credos.
Mm-hmm.
And so religion is I would say, a cultural phenomenon,
Right.
where we create communities around certain spiritual insights. But spirituality is always, I think, unique to each individual.
Right.
10 people could be practicing religion, and 10 people each have their unique own spiritual
Idea
experience.
of spirituality.
That's good. That's good. I heard the statement, and I don't know how true it is, that we aren't human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Oh, wow.
I just think that the makeup is more than what we see now, and it's bigger than what we see now. So for me, spirituality is embracing that life that you really don't see, that connects you to a higher, some would say a higher being or higher God, and get you closer to those individuals, that, because I believe we all have more in common than not. And the humanness, while we connect, I think is also important for that spiritual life to connect as well.
So on the same thing of connection, have you noticed similarities between your faiths, like ethical code, acts of kindness, compassion?
I would say yes. I know it's expressed in different ways, but most of us have the fundamental practices, like, for instance, prayer. I know prayer is a big part of what the Jewish tradition have, and we as well. Acts of kindness, being, treating someone the way you would want to be treated,
Right.
I think is just innate in us. Just being able to there's this thing called the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so for me, I think that there are similarities in terms of how we treat people.
Yeah.
And I also think what Reverend Johnson talked about when he was called by God to service, I think that idea of calling, in the Jewish tradition, we might call that mitzvah. Mitzvah means commandment, but commandment has the same idea of calling.
Right.
That a religion is basically making a proposition that you in this world are important, that your actions make a difference in this world.
Right.
And I think so many people in our generation don't think that their life has infinite meaning. And that's really tragic.
It is.
I think when God says, I choose you, right, as my partner in redemption, I choose you in the project of improving the world, that gives a sense of importance.
Yes.
That we are called to service.
Right.
And so I think people that have a spiritual or religious foundation very often have more resilience
Right.
when they're faced with challenges in their life. So I think that that's something that all great religions really ask us to consider, that our lives are more than this moment. Our lives are more than what we might assume. And so that's why I'm interested in meeting people from other faiths.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I have the entire truth. I think that anyone who thinks that they have the entire truth is an idolater, in my mind.
Yeah.
That they have created a God in their own image. We are created in the image of God. God is not created in our image.
Yeah. I over the last few weeks, I've had to deal with several individuals who unfortunately decided that life was not worth living, and they took their lives. And what came out of that is that they didn't think there was anything beyond the moment. And so what you're saying is important, because when you have faith, no matter how bad it gets on this side, you still believe that there's something greater beyond this moment. And so I think that's the foundation that many of us in religions have, is we know that there's something bigger than us.
Right.
There's someone bigger than us. And so this moment is difficult. This moment may be miserable in that moment, but you keep pressing on, because God has something better for you.
I'm sorry that you've had to deal with that. That's heartbreaking.
Someone told me once, when hope dies on the inside, there can be no help from the outside. And I just think that's what, for us, for me in particular, religion is a hope that there is something greater than what I see now.
How do we have faith in uncertain times then?
I think that's a really important question. And I think that one of the ideas for me, I think that there are many people that might believe, if I believe everything's going to work out okay, and then it doesn't work out okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then people have a crisis of faith,
Mm-hmm.
because life is supposed to, go in a certain way, and it doesn't always go the way we want.
Right.
Rather, faith asks me to ask myself, what is a faithful response at every point in my life?
Mm-hmm.
There's a prayer during the Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah services, which many people pray, where it talks about that all beings are judged on the Jewish New Year, who will live, who will die, who by fire, who by water. A lot of times people have a lot of difficulty swallowing this, but it's not really saying that God is judging, that we could actually figure out the calculus of God's judgment, because we don't know that. But we do know that these events happen every year to people that are worthy or people that are unworthy. These events happen, but the end of the prayer says three things. It says, tshuva, utfila, utzedakah, ma'virin et roa hagzera, which means repentance, prayer, and good deeds override the evilness of the creed. That doesn't mean the bad things are not going to happen, but there are three dimensions in which a person lives. Teshuvah means repentance, my relationship with myself, with my inner values. Tefillah, prayer, means my relationship, my vertical relationship with the sense of the cosmos, the sense of the divine. Tzedakah, which means charity or good deeds, is my relationship with my fellow man. If I have those three dimensions in line in my life, I will know how to respond in every situation in my life. It says in the book of Psalms, The 118th Psalm, it says, I praise you for you have answered me and you have become my deliverance. But in Hebrew, it says, Odcha ki anitani vatihili liyeshua, which means, can mean that I praise you for you have answered me. But some of the commentaries say that anitani means you oppress me. I thank you because you oppress me. And that became the way to salvation. Now, what does that mean? I think to a certain extent, it means if we learn about ourselves, the times that we learn most about ourselves are in trial. And I'm sure you could talk a little bit about that in Christianity, how we grow in times of trial and even suffering at times. But the lessons of life, very often, we are not the same people.
Right.
After we
'Cause
go
they're
through those
learning
trials,
experiences.
that's right. We are learning. We're learning and we're growing. And looking back, right, of course, we don't want to suffer in life. Of course, we want things to be only nice in our lives. But we know that's not true. The question is, how do we respond? How do we grow out of our experiences? And so I could tell you from my own experiences going through very difficult times in my life, I don't think I would be the same individual that I am now if I didn't go through them. It doesn't mean I wish those experiences on me.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, because faith, in essence, is like it's like a muscle. You use it, you build it, it grows. James 1 in our New Testament says, "Consider it joy, pure joy, brothers and sisters, when you endure various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance, and perseverance, when it's complete, you're mature and lacking nothing." And so it lets us know that you are going to go through trials, you're going to go through difficult moments, but it's in those moments that your faith is tested and your faith is built. And so, like I said, just like a muscle, if you don't use it, it won't get bigger.
Agreed.
And just like so through trials, tribulations, through life circumstances, we're put in this place where we have to exercise what we really believe.
Although I do think, that when people go through suffering, a person has to figure out that meaning for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think, I think in religious faith, there is room for doubt. There is room to express one's anger, one's disappointment. Think about the most fundamental relationship we have with people, right? Sometimes somebody will disappoint us, right? And we don't understand why they disappointed us. We'll be angry. We'll express our sense of suffering at that moment. That doesn't mean that there's no more relationship. It means that relationship is strained because of what's going on. And I think the same thing we can speak about in terms of our religious faith. I think there is room for religious questioning.
Yes.
I think that that's important because that means that it's strong. It's an important dimension in our life. People that don't think that this is an important dimension probably are not going to ask these questions. It's for those people that their faith is strong, that relationship is strong when people begin asking questions about faith. So I think we have to have room for people to experience what they experience. And in time, people sometimes will find meaning out of those difficult times of uncertainty and suffering.
Yeah. There was a statement that I made a number of years ago that you reminded me that I said, and that is, while we may not know what our future holds, we know who holds our future. And so in that, there may be questions there that I've dealt, since being here in 2010, I have literally done about 300, almost 400 funerals. I mean, people have died, not just older people, younger people, tragic situations, and it never fails me that people want to know why. While we may not be able to answer that, they still have to trust the God that they believe in to get them through that moment. And I've seen it so many times where sometimes people, they don't get the answers that they seek, and they still wrestle. And I tell them it's okay to wrestle. It's okay to wrestle with your faith. Sometimes it's okay to wrestle with the crisis. But at the end of the day, for those who are able to endure to the end, they know that while I may not be able to explain it, I still hold on to that one who holds on to me.
Yeah. How do you handle that? How do you both handle that? When you're supposed to be the pillar of support for your congregants, when bad things happen. How do you handle those trying times? Faith.
I think you have to listen to the people and understand where they're coming from.
Okay.
And then you have, every tradition has a lot of spiritual resources in which we can draw.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a story once. There was a person who was dying, and somebody came to visit them before the Shabbat, and they said, Rabbi, I'm dying right now. And the rabbi wasn't prepared to hear that. The rabbi said, no, you have to have faith.
Right.
You got to pray to God. And if you pray to God, everything's going to be good. You know, you're going to have a good Shabbat. And he gave him a challah for Shabbat. Of course, the man was at the end of his life. He couldn't even eat the challah. And he, a few hours after that visit, died. That was a missed opportunity. That was the insecurity of the individual saying, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this person that's suffering? I think part of being a religious leader is to be with the person where they are at that moment, right?
Absolutely.
They will figure out how to understand their own life and how to bring meaning to this event in their life.
Yeah.
My role is to be there with them in the trenches. Yeah. It says, that one of the most famous images, God appears to Moses at the burning bush. And that's the first time Moses actually sees or hears the voice of God.
Right.
And God decides to manifest God's self as the burning bush. Why the burning bush? So many of the rabbinic commentators say because it represents the suffering. That I, God, hear the suffering of my people, because that's the next thing that God says to Moses. I hear the suffering of my people and their screams, and I'm going to redeem them from the land of Egypt. So the image of Moses seeing a bush on fire represents the idea that in Hebrew, Imo anochi betzara, I am with you in your pain. The idea that we walk with people in their suffering and we don't find easy answers to get people,
right?
Because they won't be satisfied with these answers. Yeah. I mean, if there's somebody that died young and I tell a parent, well, this is why it happened, that's never going to bring them solace or meaning. Right. They have to figure out that themselves. Yeah. That my son died, they brought something to my life that I didn't know about life before. Now I created a foundation in their memory. I carry their memory in a new way. That's a way of person kind of seeking meaning out of something that is beyond not tragic. Explainable, not we don't know the answers. I think to try to provide answers, I think is counterproductive most of the time.
I've had to learn that I don't have the answers most times. I'm just present with you through that painful moment, because there's nothing that you can say that's sufficient for that mother or that father. And I can think of countless number of times when I wanted to tell them it's going to be okay, or this is why it happened, but I can't tell you that.
Right.
And I let them also know I don't know what you're going through right now.
Right.
Because even though that person may have gone through something and somebody else has gone through similar, those are individual pains, they're individual crises that they're having to walk through. But I was reminded of something, Rabbi. I was in Israel a number of years ago, and we were driving down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and I saw some Bedouins on the side of the road, and I saw this whole little setup, and I asked the guy to let the window down, and when he let the window down, there was this god awful smell. These sheep, man, it was just stinky.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what is that smell? He said, that's the sheep. And I said, well, what are those guys doing? He said, those are the shepherds that they live with the sheep. They're over there. They're in that with the smell and everything. And I asked him to let the window back up. I couldn't believe it. But it reminds me of us as rabbis, as pastors, shepherds of the people, that we're there with them. We may not be able to answer all of their questions, but just the fact that you're there to hug, to hold, to cry with them, that's been, for me, that's been the biggest revelation for me, is I don't have all the answers, but I can be present in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think you have to listen really closely to the way people respond to different events in their life, because I think one of the most important ideas in both religions, I think, is the idea of gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude means that I'm dependent upon something outside myself,
Mm.
right? And that, no one has ever come to me where they won the lottery and they said, Rabbi, why me? Why do I deserve that? I don't deserve this,
Right.
right? No, nobody ever asked that
Yeah.
question. But if you think about your life and you think about the number of days that you wake up, we started about Modeh Ani, when you wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Most days you're going to wake up. Most days there's a blessing actually in Judaism when you go to the restroom,
Yeah.
right? Until somebody is incontinent, people don't necessarily understand that a simple function in the body that happens every day for most of us is miraculous.
Yeah.
So if you look at your life in light of miracles,
Yes.
that everything is from the divine flow of God, if everything is a blessing in life, then I think that gives you a perspective about events. I couldn't say this myself, but there was a person that just we're talking about funerals. Somebody just lost a 15-year-old son,
Oh, no.
and during the funeral, he said, "I thank God that I had this blessing for 15 years. I was privileged by God to be given this
Wow.
soul in my care." And then he began to recount all of the ways this child impacted his life, his friends, the people around them. And so he transformed at that moment. Now, I don't know if I could do that myself.
Right.
Maybe we don't even necessarily believe in what he said. Maybe he's trying to find meaning.
Right.
Nonetheless, that's the story of his life that he chooses to tell, that that life has not cheated me at that moment, but life has blessed me, right?
Wow.
With this undeserved gift that gave me so much joy in my life.
Yeah.
So I think that we can frame our stories of our lives in any way we want,
Right.
right? And I think that kind of storytelling that we tell ourselves, which is spiritually informed, is empowering.
Yeah.
It's empowering to us, because walking around throughout our lives saying we're the victim of everything will create the next chapter in our life where we feel the victim. We're not the author of the next
Right.
chapter in our story.
That's good. I love it.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who's trying to start a spiritual practice to find more meaning in their life?
Well, that's a great question. What do you think, Reverend?
For me, I would ask them to search for that brings you peace. For me, I've learned, and through pastoring, I've seen that materials, wealth, things that we see, those things don't bring you ultimate peace. And so you have to find that will bring that inner peace in you, that you can rest well, that if all hell breaks loose, that it's well with my soul, so to speak.
Right.
And so I would encourage them to go on that journey to find that peace that
Right.
surpasses all understanding.
I like what you said. It says in the book of Proverbs, he who loves money will never have enough money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think it's interesting that we live in a time that we have so much plenty in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Our lifespans are longer than any other period in history.
Yeah.
We have more material than ever before, and yet we have this attitude of scarcity.
Yeah.
Right.
If I don't get the next iPhone, what's going to be? What's going to happen in my life? If I don't get the next house, if I don't get the next car, right? We always have this idea that we need more, and I think it says in the ethics of the fathers in our tradition, Ezu ashir hasomech bechelko, which means who is the one that is truly wealthy in this world? The one that is happy with their lot.
Mm-hmm.
That they say, I have everything I need. I have everything in this world. God has given me so much. Wealth, feeling a sense of wealth, as you said, is really a sense of gratitude for the things that people have.
Which you already have.
And I, in terms of a spiritual practice, I don't do this, so but I think about it every day, is writing a gratitude journal. If every day you write down 5 things you're thankful for, after 1 month, you'll begin seeing the world differently.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's
You
true.
I had that great latte, and it just, I loved
Made
it
your
this
day.
morning. Made my day.
Yeah.
I saw a friend I hadn't seen in a long time. It was so invigorating to see this old friend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Write it down. All of a sudden, you start looking for things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In our tradition, Jesus' words is, "Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where thieves and robbers will break in and steal, or moth and rust will destroy, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where thieves and robbers cannot steal, and moth and rust does not destroy." And it causes us to put things in perspective. Those things that you can see, those things that you can hold on to, can be taken away at any moment. And those things that you don't see is really, in my estimation, are the most important things. We make this statement in our tradition that, especially during funerals, I've never seen a U-Haul carry
That's right.
all of your things to the grave with you.
Right.
Now, there are people who may be crazy enough to do those things
Right.
now, but trust me, they're not enjoying
Right.
those things because they can't take them with them.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree with Rabbi, just taking the time to have I don't know what you call it, a journal.
A
you said?
gratitude journal.
A gratitude journal, just looking at all the things we say in our tradition, all of our good days outweigh our bad days, so we won't complain.
Right.
Because you can always look at someone who has it worse than you. You can always look at a situation and say, I can be thankful and grateful
Right.
for that. And
Perspective.
so when
Absolutely.
you add it all up, you say, hey, my life is better,
Yeah.
than it is miserable.
It's perspective. You said a gratitude journal, but so I'm a big person of God talk. I pray like all the time. And doesn't matter when I wake up in the morning, before I go to bed, in the car, it's always God talk. But the last thing I do before I go to bed at night, and it's not a gratitude journal, but I start off with thanking God for. And it could be simple things, just like getting up in the morning. I mean, health is a big thing, just like all the non-tangibles, so to speak. So, and it does rewire your brain, I think, in a way that you tend to look for the gratitude pieces, all of those blessings that you have that you take for granted. So I do, doing journal is great. I don't write it out, but I definitely speak it out.
Yeah.
And I see that ever since I've done that, my perspective on what has meaning to me is very different.
Yeah.
So maybe our
me-
listeners will start a gratitude journal.
Well, I actually think one of the best spiritual practices in history is the Shabbat.
Mhm.
Every seventh day, you pull back from the world around you to focus on other issues.
Right.
Like, so when Shabbat comes, I don't use electricity. I don't use a cell phone. I'm unburdened. Like people say, but I'm going to be disconnected. Yeah, I'm going to be disconnected. That's right. I'm unburdened from all of the things of the week, right? It says in the Bible that for 6 days you shall do all your work, and the seventh it is the Sabbath. So the rabbis ask the obvious question, what do you mean do all your work? You never do all your work.
Right.
You're always, there's
always
more
more.
and more and more
Right.
and more. I mean, you know this,
That's
right?
it, yeah.
You never finish your work. So the rabbis say, when Sabbath comes, you have to make it in your head
That's good.
like all the work is done.
Right.
And so you can just
Stop.
now, experience community, experience family,
Yeah.
being around the Shabbat table with family members. I think so many Americans
Yeah.
need this right
Yes.
now. Whether or not you're going to keep a traditional Jewish Sabbath or a different type of Sabbath, you need to unplug. You need to come together and enjoy one another as families. Find holy times during your week.
Yep.
You are not the sum total of your work. You're not the sum total of all the pressures in
Right.
your life.
Yeah.
You are divine beings that were created in this world. This idea of seven
Yeah.
is not an astronomical phenomenon. It's based upon the story that God creates the world in 6 days and rests on the seventh. It reminds us that we are created beings. Whether you take that story literally or not, the proposition is saying that you are divine creatures.
Mhm.
And every seventh day, you focus on another order of being.
Right.
Yeah.
Even the Jewish tradition says
I
you
love
get like an extra soul on
Right.
that day,
Right.
Yeah.
which just comes again to tell us, how special we are. So we need those special times in our lives regularly, not like
Yeah.
once a year
Right.
but every seventh day. It doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, man, because I have to do that more often. But what I've learned to do is to disconnect from some things that would bring about worry and frustration, like the news, for instance. I used to look at the news every morning,
Mm-mm.
and I'm wondering why my day is just like drained, and I'm just so much going on. But since I don't look at the news until the afternoon. I get through my whole day, and sometimes I get a chance to just catch a little bit of what's the current events are. But I've noticed that my pressure is down, my stress level is down, and so what I try to do is at least once a week is to disconnect from social media, disconnect from television, disconnect from all the phone calls. So I guess I'm starting that. Maybe not on a Friday night and Saturday, but I'm trying to find a day to say you have to take time to disconnect, to
100%.
refuel yourself. Yeah.
And on that same thing of community and connection, how do you see spirituality making more room for that?
Mm. You want to answer that one?
You both punted to each other.
I guess I'll start. I think there's a Jewish idea that you can't be a spiritual person on a mountaintop. That ultimately we find our spiritual self-realization in relationship, not just with God, but with other people.
To each other. Yeah.
We have a saying in the Jewish tradition, if I am not for myself,
Who will be for me?
and if I am only for myself,
Mm.
who am I?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that, one of the best ways of battling a sense of despair or depression is to live life outside yourself.
Right.
Yes.
Because I think we all go through difficult times in life. I don't think clergy are any different than anyone else.
Right. No one's
But
exempt.
yeah, no one's exempt. But when I live outside myself, when I know that I'm needed and I try to serve and give, that ennobles my life. And I think we realize ourselves as human beings in the context of relationships.
Right.
So I think that, that's why it's not just, I think some people are, think about spirituality only against society, kind of pulling back from the world.
Right.
But,
As an individual practice.
but religion basically says, no, part of being a religious individual, yes, you need that space to yourself,
Yes.
but you want to give to the community. You want
Right.
to, you live
Connection.
together in the community and the relationships you build. So I think that that's what's special about established religions, actually.
Yeah. And we all need each other. We're all interconnected. There's a term in South Africa. It's called Ubuntu, which means I am because you are. When I realize that I am not all that I am unless you're all that you are, because we are interconnected and intertwined together in this walk of life. And so that's why, for me, I think it's better to, as much as possible, break down barriers and build bridges, because we have more in common than we do in not having in common. And so that's why I love speaking to different individuals from their different perspectives, different religions, different traditions, because it helps me see, listen, we really all still need each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a quote, and I don't even remember right now, and I'm sure I'll butcher it, but it says something about the only way that we're going to go far and is we go together.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can go faster
By yourself.
but you can go farther
with
together.
each other. Yeah, together. Yeah. All right. You said it well.
Yeah.
So in a previous conversation, Rabbi, you spoke to me and you said something about the problem that we're facing now is spiritual illiteracy.
Mm.
So I wanted to know if you could expand upon it. And Reverend, I want to know your take on that too.
Sure. Well, the term actually came from a psychotherapist named Lisa Miller.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we have great stories that we tell ourselves. And I think that very often in our generation, because there's this clear boundary between secular, quote unquote, and religious. So I think children are growing up in a world where they are denied any type of great narratives from our spiritual traditions, which I think give people a lot of resilience. So all of a sudden they're 20 years old and they reach a crisis in their life and they only have their own story.
Right.
And sometimes even their family stories are not very rich, because families seem to be very divided. If you come from a multi-generational family and you're telling tales from generation to generation, and you hear the stories of your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents, then you have a bigger story in which to place yourself. I think, as a Jewish person, right, I say my story begins with Abraham. I'm a descendant. In Hebrew, we call Abraham Avraham Avinu, Abraham, my father.
Right.
No, he's not my father. He's my father like hundreds of generations ago. But no, he's my father. I'm part of a great story.
Right.
And so if I can link into that, that gives me a sense of purpose, sense of meaning, of resilience. When something happens, I'm going to say, oh, this has happened before.
Right.
This is not the first time either me individually or our people have had challenges in history.
Right.
And so I think we draw upon that to give us strength. So that's what I meant, that our generation is being denied. And I'm not saying teach a specific religion in a public school. I'm not saying that, but I think it's, it would behoove us as a society to open up avenues where people actually explored the great religious narratives because they provide a sense of strength.
Man, you said it perfectly. It's funny in our generations now, even when I'm speaking about different stories in the Bible, our generations have no clue of what I'm talking about. And so it's like, hey, we need to spend time to really retell those stories so that, and like you just said, even in family, retell those stories and those traditions so you can hold on to that.
Right.
Because if you don't, someone said, if you don't know your history, you're bound to relive it.
Right.
And so at least I want to know what happened in the past. And so I think that's definitely important.
So how can we foster a more spiritual life for our children outside of just the storytelling and that sort of connected thread? And you said a little bit about why it matters, but maybe you can expand upon that.
So for me, one of the things I realize is some things are taught and other things are caught. My kids have, and there's a passage in the Old Testament says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he won't depart. Now, we use that as a promise. I don't necessarily know if that's a promise, Rabbi, but I will say, I think the part is important that we still train. We take that time, whether it is taught orally or written, or they see our lives. One of the things my kids tell me is that they believe what they believe because they watched me and my wife.
100%.
And so people will see you and believe something more than what you say.
Exactly. 100%. I believe that because children don't listen to what you say, but they watch what you do.
Yes,
absolutely.
100%.
They will.
I totally agree. And I think one of the things that I think about a lot is when people ask the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're not asking, who do you want to be when you grow up? There's, what do you want to do? Right? How are you going to serve the economy? How are you going to be a productive member of society? I once asked a child, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to do this. Why do you want to do this? I want to make a lot of money. Okay, now you've made a lot of money. What do you want to do? He says, well, I want to enjoy myself. I said, enjoy yourself to what end? And that was the end of it.
Right.
I think one of the questions we should be asking our children is not what do you want to do, but who do you want to be in this world? Who, I'm very interested in what kind of character do you want to be in this world? How do you want to be experienced in this world by others?
Right.
Because, as Reverend Johnson said, at the end of one's life, no one's taking the U-Haul and bringing their things with them to the next world.
No one says, I wish I worked more.
But we do carry,
We do care how we're remembered.
But as people of faith, we do carry our deeds into the next world.
Yes.
Right? Our deeds, and that's when a minister or rabbi gives a eulogy, they don't talk about how much money this person made. They might talk about how much this person gave to others, shared with others. That's our expression of people's values. So I think we really should be focused a lot on character cultivation, especially when children are young. How are they, are you kind to your friends? What actions are you doing? If there's a kid that is not being included, what do you do?
Right. I also think that goes back to what both of you said about leading by example.
Yes.
Because if you're not doing that in your life, then your
Yes.
children aren't learning that because they're
Yes.
not seeing it because you're not doing it.
Yes. One of the things that was most impactful is my father and my mother would always go and visit the sick. They would go to the hospitals. They would go to the nursing homes. I did not like it as a child, but they would make me come, and I would see how they would be compassionate and care for others. And I look back 20 years later, I'm like, I'm doing the same thing. And I'm like, I just think that you see and you
Right.
emulate what
Yeah.
you see. And so, for me, it is like you said, action,
Mm-hmm.
faith without action. And matter of fact, that's what James says in our tradition. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So you can say you have faith, but if you have not done anything, that's really dead faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's a demographic that is more spiritual in life? I mean, do young, this is just throwing this out there, do young people who with children just don't have time to be more spiritual in their practice? Or maybe retired people have more time for spirituality in life? Is there a demographic that you see?
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
I don't personally. I think that it could happen at any
Anytime.
age. I mean, there are times that are maybe more pitched.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when young adulthood, when people are trying to find their place in society, so
Mhm.
they're more in a place where they're seeking,
Right.
right? What does my life mean?
Right.
Right. And then maybe in their 40s, where they go through the midlife crisis, where they say, okay, I had the kids, I had the family, I had the house.
They're seeking again.
And now what?
Now
Right?
what?
Because I
Right.
did the rat race. I
Right.
did what I was supposed to do, what society tells me to do, and then I don't feel good.
Right.
So then they start
Right.
exploring new avenues. And of course, when people get older, then they don't have to be anything that they don't want to be.
Right.
I've done it all.
Yeah.
I've had the family, I have the house,
Yeah.
right? I don't need to be around people that just bring me down.
Then they're looking at the
And-
last third of
and
their life.
That's
so-
right. And then
Yeah.
they're looking like, oh, I'm not living 50 more years.
Right.
Maybe I'm living 10. Maybe I'm
Right.
living
Yeah.
20 more years.
How do I make
So-
it meaningful?
Exactly. So I think that there are times where, spirituality and seeking may be more prominent, but I think that it should be ultimately an ongoing.
Continuous.
I think a person in life, this is the way I see myself, and
Mm.
should be a seeker.
Right.
Yeah.
We should always try to be seekers. Sometimes we're going to fail, and I include myself. As we're
Yeah.
all.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we're coasting, and I would
Absolutely.
include ministers and rabbis. I know this,
Absolutely.
working with a lot of people over many years. We also go through difficult times,
Right.
but I
They're
think
human.
that we're all human.
Yeah.
But we all are seeking those kind of higher truths in our lives.
Yeah. And it just makes me think that when an individual comes to the end of themselves, they start seeking after something greater, or should. Sometimes we're self-seeking, self-serving, and sometimes you can get all of the money, you can get all the accolades. I remember this basketball player was saying, I can't remember who it was, but he was saying at the end of his career, he had like $130 million, and the guy was asking him, what do you do with your life after that? He said, I was so miserable. He said, I was just nothing to do. I no longer had basketball.
Yeah.
From the time I was a teenager to now, just didn't have anything to do. I'm just driving around. He said he was just driving around in the traffic in LA traffic, just trying to waste time.
Wow.
I said, man, that's someone that, that shows you that it doesn't matter what you acquire or what you have and
Right.
who you have. If it's not something substantially greater than that moment or those materials, it's not going to be sufficient. So
Right.
those individuals seek after that. That's greater than those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've already answered it, but just does having a spiritual life deepen our faith?
I believe it does.
Yeah.
And I would like to offer your listeners an exercise. I teach spiritual care volunteers.
Mm.
And it says that every human being is created in the image of God.
Yeah.
And we walk through our day and we interact probably with hundreds of people every day, many of us. if we thought and kept that idea front and center, that I am now talking to a manifestation of God,
Yeah.
that this person in front of me is a universe, not a person in a transaction, not a person that I need something from, which I might. There are different types of relationships in life, but this person is an image of God. How would that impact the interaction I have with another human being? Even a difficult conversation you might have with another person. How would that impact interactions? I think that kind of mindfulness in our society, I think, is extremely important right now.
Necessary.
Yeah. I mean, we're living through a time of such division and hate. And I think people are forgetting that we are all creatures in the image of God. We are all, there's a Hasidic saying in the tradition that the world was created for me, and yet I'm but dust of the earth. We are all fallible and vulnerable, right? Those two ideas have to be held simultaneously in our interactions with all human beings. So I think a spiritual view of us, our community, our
Definitely
country
deepens
right
our
now, that is inclusive, not that I have the truth and you're a heretic, you're out. Right? That I don't think is going to be very helpful. But that kind of spiritual awareness, I think, would be so helpful in terms of the healing of the rifts that our countries is experiencing right now.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. But yes, I do believe that your spirituality influences your faith.
Yeah,
It has to.
deepens it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if someone was so busy and they had so much on their plate, what is the biggest takeaway you'd want them to know about spirituality?
So for me, I would say about faith. What I would say is what you believe ultimately determines how you behave and how you walk through life. There's a statement by I don't know if you all heard the story about Walt Disney and how he built Disney World, and the day they had the grand opening, someone looked and said, "Man, I wish Walt would have been here to see this." And the other person looked and said, "He did see it. That's why it's here."
Oh, yeah.
And so faith is believing in what you see so much that you're willing to walk it out until you see what you believe.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like what he said.
Yeah, what he said. I agree. Is there anything we left out in this conversation? I'm so happy we did this episode. I'm so happy. Is there anything we left out that you want our listeners to know, or anything you think we didn't cover?
Just to stay encouraged and continue to seek fulfillment through your faith.
Like that.
And I'd say, look at your life as a life of agency, that your life makes a difference and that you're beloved by God.
I like
And
that too.
when you're beloved by God and God believes in you, even if you're fallible like all of us, you do make a difference.
Yeah.
And keep that in mind and see how that plays out in your daily interactions in the world. That spirituality is not necessarily only in a synagogue or a church, although I encourage everybody to join synagogues or churches.
Yeah.
But spirituality happens in the daily interactions in our lives.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so before I end, I like to do something with all of my guests. It's called Quickie Questions.
Oh, wow.
You game?
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay.
I guess so.
What do you personally practice daily? Just something you do for yourself.
You mean activity-wise?
Could be anything. Just something that you just do every day.
I typically work out every day.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd like to work out every day. I need to work out every day. But I mean, I go to synagogue every day. I mean, I pray every day.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I don't feel it at every moment, I know that when the message is ready, when I'm ready to receive the message, I'm standing at attention.
Ready to.
And so I think that's really important to have a daily discipline like that,
Yeah.
which is independent of my role because I don't work in a synagogue. So I just go for myself.
Right. Yeah, that's your daily practice.
Yes.
What is the most difficult part of your profession, and where do you find comfort?
So for me, I have a pretty large congregation, so I deal with problems every single day. I'm managing people, managing problems every single day.
So where do you find comfort?
So for me, I have learned to just enjoy life. One of the things that I tell people is that I've buried so many people. I've seen so much death that it has taught me how to live.
Mm.
So I just enjoy every moment. I take nothing for granted.
Yeah.
I tell people I love them every day.
Yeah.
I try to forgive if there's someone that has hurt me. I try not to miss a moment to make sure that if any moment God calls me away from here, that I've done everything.
No,
I live full and die empty.
Yeah. No, that's right. 100%.
Yeah.
That's good.
What Reverend Johnson is kind of referring to is, I think, the challenge of compassion fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Many of us experience, and you could go through the motions. And I think it's really important for us. We can't solve all the problems in the world.
Right.
That's same for every human being, in your family, with your children, if they're right. We want to fix everything.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of brokenness in people and in the world that you can't fix at every moment. You can only do what you can do.
Yeah.
Own the good things you can do in this life and let God work out all the rest. And so I try to stay with that mantra, like
I love it, man.
like Reverend Johnson. Like, I like having a good time.
Right.
The past few years after COVID, I like rock and roll. I go on road trips and I listen to a lot of rock bands.
I love it.
Okay, so why? Because I find it freeing and liberating, and a sense of community and people that love music.
Yes.
Music's very uplifting for me.
Yeah.
In my other life, I'm a rock musician. I say that to many
With
people.
long hair and
That's right.
guitar.
I love
Yeah,
it.
maybe,
I love it.
Yeah, music is super important to me as well.
I love
maybe not like bohemian, that kind
Right.
of thing, but
Right.
so I try to find times to celebrate with my wife, my kids, my family. I think that's really important, to
is.
enjoy life and not to
Right.
feel guilty that I'm not doing this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Got it. What do you consider your greatest blessing?
My family.
Yeah.
I've been with my wife since I was 14,
Oh,
and
I
I'm
love
50. She'll be 50 on Wednesday, March 4th.
Happy birthday.
I'm taking her out of the country, guys.
Oh,
and
yay.
so, and I have 4 beautiful kids and 2 son-in-laws. So,
Wow,
my
that's
family.
amazing.
So, family has been like, that has been my first priority in ministry.
It's a great blessing.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Ditto.
My wife, and my kids, my stepkids. So I think, I feel very fortunate.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's the greatest blessing.
it is. It totally is.
Okay, you may have cheated and seen one of my questions, but I was going to ask you, what's the first concert you went to?
I mean, in the 80s?
Wow, I can beat you both on that one, so go ahead. Give it to
I
me.
probably went to Billy Joel.
Oh, a great one. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I got 6-row tickets with a girl that I had a crush on.
Oh, that's good. I like that one.
It did work out, like Reverend Johnson, who
Right.
It worked out for me.
Yeah. First concert.
First concert. Wow. I think it was. You may not know these people, but have you ever heard of Babyface?
Yes.
Or
Oh my
Boys
God.
and Men.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
They had
so
a concert.
funny.
They had a concert, and somebody invited me to it. So
I like it.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Anything else? We
What,
left out?
concerts?
No, we
No.
left out anything? Anything else we could think
No,
of?
I think
We're
we
good.
covered a
I
lot.
think we covered
I
everything
did.
in
It
life.
was an excellent episode. I cannot
Yeah.
thank you both enough. I'm so honored to have you both here. So excited. I've been waiting for this episode. I feel so blessed that you were both here. So honored, so appreciative
Listen,
that you
I
were
did a
both here.
podcast a few weeks ago, and it was nothing like this. This was amazing.
You had fun?
If all my podcasts would be like this, I would come anytime.
Oh, okay. Then we have to have you back.
I had a
we'll
great
have to.
time.
You
Yes.
did? Oh, good.
Oh,
I'm so
yeah.
excited. I had the best time. So, Stephen, you'll have to tell us what you think later. But I thank you both. I really, really thank you both.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
To our listeners, Thank you so much. So grateful you are here. Keep listening, keep learning, keep laughing, keep up with Beek on Being. Follow Beek on Being on Instagram for the latest. To share thoughts, ideas, suggestions, or nominate a guest, DM us. Want exclusive content, behind-the-scenes stories, and listener links? Subscribe. Listen to Beek on Being wherever you get your podcast. All episodes are automatically transcribed. Big shout out and a huge thank you to Stephen Chen at Penthouse Studios. Beek on Being was recorded at Penthouse Studios and is a proud member of the Penthouse Podcast Network.